Hey guys, it's update day. This is Mike Cotton. I'm going to update you on the plugin I'm making. So if you didn't see my previous video, go check that out first. That way you can get up to speed on what I'm talking about. But I'm creating a WordPress plugin for network marketers, and they can create basically a marketing website for themselves, and then turn that website into a replicated site for their team to use. So that's what the plugin is all about, and I'm calling it Replicate with the number 8. Yes, it is cheesy. So am I. So this is update number 2, part 2 of the plugin process. I'm kind of documenting it as I go. Part of what I did this past week was not visual. It's more of the redesign of code and all that. And I will explain that at the end of this video because it's program talk, it's nerd speak, it's geek speak. And I don't want to bore everybody with that. So I will keep that till the end. So I will first talk about referrals. So in a replicated website, you will be able to send people to your own URL, and they will be cookied to you, tied to you with a browser cookie, and for a certain number. I think the default number of days is 90. For 90 days, when they come back to that site, they will see your links. So that is the benefit of having a replicated website. They'll see your links instead of the team leader's links. Unless you're a team leader, then they're going to see the team leader's links, and that's what you want them to see. So whatever URL they go to, they will be tied to that referrer. That's what I'm calling it, referrer. That is a hard word to say, referrer. Referrer. Sort of like the word rural has the R's. Anyway. So when they are cookied to that particular referrer, and anytime in the next 90 days they come back to the website, they will see that referrer's links. So what I did was, if that user that's tied to a referrer signs up under this marketing website, then they will be linked, the account actually will be linked to that referrer. And the referrer will be, the referrer's account will be linked a new referral. So, my brain hurts. It's a lot of information. Anyway, so referrals are a thing now, just like network marketing. When you sign somebody up under you in network marketing, you're going to want them to use the same system that you are using to refer other people. So naturally, you're going to want them to sign up under the same website that you are using to get referrals. So when you send them there, you'll send them with your URL, your referrer URL. And when they sign up using any kind of third-party WordPress plugin or the built-in WordPress register page, when they sign up, new user is created, and they will be linked to the referrer, and that referrer's account will have a referral added to their account. So that is new. I had a lot of back-end work to make that happen. And then I also had to think about when a user was deleted. See, I'm thinking, thinking ahead. So when a user is deleted from the site, an admin can delete them. Maybe the person left the company or they're just in bad standing. Anyway, they got deleted from the site. So that user may have referrals and is obviously tied to some referrer. So what it does is when it's deleted, it takes all those referrals that may or may not be assigned to them and assigns them to that person's referrer. That way, they always have an active referrer. All right. And each referral that is assigned to you will always be active as well. So that's the way the referral system works. I always have to enunciate referral or referrer because I don't want you to be confused. I think I've been confused this whole time, so I can't really say anything. So everyone will always have a referrer, and that is because there is a default referrer now, and that is basically user ID number 1, because I am not very creative. So user ID number 1 is the default referrer. Now user ID number 1 is usually the admin of the site, the first person who creates the website. Now because that person may be like a web developer or web designer that is not necessarily the owner of the site. One of the future implementations that I want to do is actually create a settings page, which I need it for other things anyway. I'm going to create a settings page that you can choose the default referrer instead of it just being user ID number 1. So the default referrer is new. Also on that settings page, I want to add a way to set how long the cookie will exist on each person you refer. So right now it's 90 days. I want to change that to a setting. And then being that the default referrer will exist, I want a way for to notify the default referrer, maybe an nag screen or some kind of message inside the site that will tell them when a field is not populated, because I'm going to be doing away with the default values for the links. And actually, I'm doing away with links. I'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, I'm doing away with the default values in the future, and that is because we have the default referrer, and they will have their own values. So anyway, so that will be the default value, will be the default referrer's value, and we won't need the default values anymore because we'll just revert to whatever the default referrer has as values. Okay, now fields. Fields are the new links. I am doing away with links and calling them fields. So basically I was programming this out and I was programming fields in, and I thought, hey, I'll go ahead and add in a way for people to do text too, not just web addresses, URLs. That's what the links are. And I'm like, man, I have to go in and add another menu item and all this. And I'm like, why not just change links to fields and then have a field type for each of the fields, and then the links can be just a field with a field type of URL. So that's what I did. I made links into fields. Let me show you what they look like on the back end. All right, so here is the list now. If you remember the previous video, I showed you the same page and it said links, and that's because it was just URLs at that time. Now it can be text or URLs. There are 3 field types, and one is short text, one is long text, and one is URL. So if you can see here, I have your name, your business URL, and your bio as 3 fields. Your name is a short text, business URL is a URL, and the bio is a long text. So let me show you what it looks like on the inside when you're editing or creating a new field. And it's really simple, just like last time. Title, the default value, which is going away. So in the next update, this will probably be gone, the default value. Now there is a field type that you can choose. Short text, long text, or URL. So short text is less than 255 characters, long text over 255 characters, and URL is the web address, of course. So I'll keep this as short text, and then instructions on what they're supposed to put into this field. So if it's not self-explanatory like your name, you want to put instructions on each field. So when you update it, it updates it and all that, saves it as that field. Now, any URL, you see the short codes here, and I'll talk about them in a second, but any URL will have a link short code. So just like the links had before, I just added for the URL fields link short code. So that is different. So with the short codes, there's a couple of changes. So instead of replicate link, it is replicate field now. And instead of ID in a number, there's now name. So now, instead of an ID number, I'm using the name, which in WordPress, it's a post name or a slug, you can call it that. But it's based off of the title of your field. And basically, it's all lowercase, puts hyphens instead of spaces, and then it gets rid of odd text like quotes and stuff like that. So I did this so it would be more memorable for you, for the website owner, I should say. So you can go in and copy it, and if you are typing up a page and said, oh, I want a replicate field here, but I can't remember the ID number again. But I remember it's the your name field. Well, if you can remember that, you can most likely remember the name, the post name. So that's why I did it this way, so that it's changed. ID still works, but name is the predominant thing I want to be used instead. So I made that so it would be more memorable. So the short codes are the same from last time. The short code to show the fields is the same as well. I'll show you what that looks like on the front end. Here they go. Here's the fields. I just renamed my page from links to profile fields. The bio, you can see the long text is a text area. So depending on the browser, you can resize the text area. So you can put a lot more text than just the name in. So on your name, that's the short text. It's just a one-line field. So that is the difference between long text and short text, basically. The business URL is the same as the links again. So if you want to see a demo on that, go back to the previous video. So one thing, actually a couple things I want to do in the future is I want to make these fields sortable. So you can see that the fields show up using the shortcode. The fields show up in the same order that these show up. But you can't change the order unless you change the time this was published, which you can do, but it's a pain. So what I want to do is create a way to reorder these, either have arrows that will move them up or move them down, something like that. So you can reorder them, or you can a drag and drop would be nice too. There are third-party plugins you can use to do the same thing that would probably work as this. So I may copy some of what they did. I don't know. So that is one future thing I want to do. And I'm trying to remember what the other future thing is. Let me see. Oh, yeah. The main purpose of the field thing too, field types. I want to create the ability, and this would be all on the back end as one of those. It would be one of those updates that's non-visual. But I want to create a way for people to extend the fields. So it would require adding to the field list, the field type list, and then a way to handle those fields when they're saved or when they're output or entered in and stuff like that. So, and I'm thinking ahead to like YouTube videos or any kind of videos and images and stuff like that. So that was my thought for that, so I can create add-ons for myself, and then maybe even let other people, other developers, create add-ons for themselves. So that is it for that, and that is the fields. The last thing, actually, I say last thing. I have some programming stuff I want to talk last, but the next thing is something that has no effect on the plugin itself, really. So when you wrap up a WordPress plugin for get it ready for the WordPress library, you have to, first submit just the files, but you also want to submit pictures and screenshots and stuff like that, but also a nice logo, a nice image. Now, I have a logo for the company I was creating. Netmark Studios is the name of the company, especially for this. But I did not have a logo for the plugin itself. So a logo that talks about replicate. So I sat down, brainstormed, kind of drew some stuff out. I am not a graphic designer in the least. So what you are about to see is the work of a programmer. All right. I'm putting that in context. I'm setting the bar really low. That way, when you see it, you'll say, "Oh, that's pretty good for a programmer." Okay, so all right, so here it is. I'm going to debut the logo of Replicate, and I'll explain it. All right, there it is. So I haven't really decided on a color. I like green, but I don't know if I'll stick with that or not. So Replicate, you notice the 8, obviously, and then I was toying with the idea of trying to get the 8 to look like an R. So that's what I came up with, because if you look at half of the 8, it kind of looks like an R. Anyway, but then when I was doing that, I realized that the space inside the 8 looked like a person. So what I decided to do was replicate that person. Yeah, see what I did there? And replace the eye with that person. So the eye was just a rectangle eye. So now I have an eye that looks like the same person. So there's two people in the logo, and that means it's replicated. So that was what I did, and that's what I came up with. And it may not be great, but it's mine. So, when you create something yourself, you're pretty proud of it. So, gotta say, I'm kind of proud of it. So that is the logo. That's it for the kind of visual updates for the plugin. I'm going to talk about the programming stuff a little bit, not very long. But if you want to sign off now and not listen to the nerd talk, the geek speak, the programming words and stuff like that, then you can sign off for now. And I will see you later in the next episode. Anyway, so my update for the programming stuff is, like I said, a lot of non-visual stuff went into the plugin this last week. And part of it is when you are creating the plugin on the fly, you start just making these functions basically that do certain things, and then you say, it needs to do this too, and then I need to add this function. I need to add this function. Well, it got to be a mess, really. And so what I did was I decided to switch to more of an object-oriented style of programming, and made user objects and field objects, referral objects, and stuff like that. So a lot of time I put into the plugin was redesigning the way I was doing the program on the back end. And it helped performance-wise, plus it's going to help me in the future to program really quickly. So I created a lot of methods that are just reused over and over again currently. Created methods for those in each object. So, like a user object, I have a get, I think it's get field, and then you put the field ID in it, and it just returns the user's value or the referrer's value or a default value, whatever. So basically, you can just create the user object and then call the method, and it does all the work. And then that user object is usable throughout the code. So I did that just to speed things up. It makes things a lot faster. I don't have to remember, what was that function called? It's in the user object. So that was a lot of what I did. And again, I alluded to this when I was talking about the fields. I'm going to make this plugin extendable. I added a lot. Okay, in WordPress, there are things called actions and filters that you can use to help extend or change or modify, whatever you want to call it, any plugin. Any plugin that uses actions and filters, you can modify it in any way. So I'm adding a bunch of actions and filters in where I think it might be useful, not just for me, but for other programmers. So this plugin can be extended and used by other programmers that might want to add on to it with their own ideas. That's part of the open source community that WordPress is a part of. So I want to make sure I do that for other programmers that want to join in on the fun. So that is basically the programming update. That was the Geek Speak that I was talking about. Not very long. So anyway, I appreciate y'all listening through all of me rambling about this. I'm excited about this plugin. I'm excited about this project. Like I said, this is my first WordPress plugin, and it's been a kind of fun learning how to do it. And I have to learn how to now package it up and get it approved. I think it takes a couple of weeks to get it approved. And then I don't know if I'm going to market it or not. I might wait until I create some pro add-ons or extensions for this plugin to start marketing it. And so it's a fun process. I hope you enjoy the videos that I'm doing documenting the road to this plugin thing. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next update. I look forward in the next week or so. See ya.